Am I the only one who finds it a little ironic that while state after state is going smoke-free and the tobacco industry is repeatedly drugged to the whipping post, the case for legalizing marijuana continues to build momentum? Aside from the negative implications on your health, which are undeniable, there exists a list of several practical economic indicators that illustrate further disadvantages of tobacco use. At a bargain, cigarettes cost under $5 a pack. Tobacco users have higher insurance premiums, a lower resale value on their homes if they smoke inside, and employers can legally deny a tobacco user a job if they make it company policy. During the late 70s, the Carter administration prompted Congress to legalize possession of small amounts of marijuana and to have states decide amongst themselves whether or not to legalize the drug. During that time, Conglomerated Tobacco was drafting blueprints as to the growing, selling, and marketing of marijuana. Currently, the cigarette giants are not saying one way or another about any future role they may or may not have in America turning over a new leaf. Over the decades, Conglomerated Tobacco's strategies have included, but were not limited to, denying allegations that their products were harmful and addictive, marketing to an underage demographic, and knowingly and intentionally enhancing the addictiveness of their products. If the likes of Philip Morris and R.J. Reynolds are poised to dip their ladle into the marijuana market, I'm assuming they are, have we done ourselves any favors by putting the exact same entities back at the helm? There are positive and negative implications to legalizing the drug, both of which I think deserve consideration. One of the extremes that I think discredits the argument in favor is the claim that marijuana is good for you. Yes, it has medicinal uses. So does hydrocodone. That doesn't mean I should take a handful of it. But there are advocates endorsing it to the tone that it's a universal elixir and will cure the planet of all its woes. Then there's the other extreme of the spectrum, who give an opposing but equally outlandish argument. Seeing as I've never actually smoked pot myself, but observed a number of people who do, I've come to view it along the same wavelength that I do alcohol. Some people can handle it, others can't. I've known people who smoke pot who are productive members of society, pay their bills on time, and are otherwise law-abiding citizens. Then there are those other ones that give adage to the argument of keeping it illegal. The ones that make me glad I never tried it. Responsible advocates for cannabis should have no problem demonizing those who perpetuate negative stereotypes about weed. Like I said before, I don't smoke pot, but I do drink, in which case I have no problem saying, "This guy gives alcohol a bad rap." I've also heard the argument that stoned driving is safer than drunk driving. I consider that a flimsy argument because it's still something that impairs your judgment, distracts you, and I don't think I'm the only one who doesn't appreciate the person in front of them driving at a snail's pace. Despite that I drink, I'm not sticking up for drunk drivers. So for all you potheads out there, meet Catalina Klauser. After getting stoned with her boyfriend, the 19-year-old mom drove off with her 5-week-old infant on the roof of her car. The child was strapped in a car seat, which slid off the roof into an intersection. Fortunately, the child was unharmed. If you want marijuana legalized, vilify the kind of behavior that respectively ought to be vilified. Don't make excuses for someone just because you have a pastime in common. The legalization in Colorado and Washington state does not mean that people can immediately take to the streets and start lighting up. It'll still take about a year before the regulatory framing is established. If New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg can ban smoking from Times Square, pot smokers may find that they are subject to similar scrutiny. If I can't walk down the street with an alcoholic beverage or drink one while I'm driving, I'm willing to bet that pot smokers won't be allowed to hit a bowl at the bus stop or while they're operating a vehicle. I was 4 years old when Reagan left office, and by now, you, the viewer, probably find it evident that Nancy's Just Say No campaign, coupled with DARE class, took their toll on me. In the time I've spent observing pot smokers, I have seen the good, the bad, and the lazy. I don't rule out the conclusion that comedian Bill Hicks left us with when he explained that we owe much of our favorite music to some degree of substance abuse, but we'll get back to that later. I also realize that there are a number of potential benefits to decriminalizing the drug. 60% of the profit margin for drug cartels is marijuana, and legalizing could cripple their business. Paper could be made from hemp instead of using trees. The resources of law enforcement would be better enabled than they are for arresting someone who is going to get stoned in the privacy of their own home. Very medicinal purposes, a source of tax revenue, etc., etc. However, I come back to the concern of big tobacco cashing in. Like I said before, they're not saying one way or another about the role they may or may not play, probably to get a better idea of where they'll stand before launching a PR campaign. For the reasons previously listed, I would be wary of letting them back in the driver's seat. How is your insurance provider going to react? but the argument that there are more pros than cons still stands to reason. At any rate, be cautiously optimistic. I can well imagine that those of you who chalk Colorado and Washington up as a victory have put a great deal of time, energy, money, and other resources into making your ambition a reality. Be vigilant and conscientious in embracing your victory. You have been afforded a privilege. I have thoroughly emphasized and admit my personal bias on the subject. I have mixed emotions, and while you may not agree, understand. But, even so, I have to give credit where credit is due, because as much as I love Doritos, I can't keep Frito-Lay in business all by myself. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe.